on this white background, anything can be written, anything can be painted. The most beautiful story can be written. The most complex scientific formula can be written. The most beautiful painting can be painted. The most beautiful experience can be experienced. But this white background is the essence. It's the most important thing actually, which is usually overlooked in one's life. And in your own life, this white background is awareness. It's your present awareness. For those of you to whom awareness word is new, I may ask you a question. Are you aware now? And take a few moments just to check in with yourself. Are you aware now? Are you conscious now? Yeah, it's just a moment to check in. And it is not important in this moment to understand all the implications of awareness, or what it means. I'm simply asking in this moment just to check in with yourself. Are you aware right now? Are you conscious? And that is the obvious yes to all of you. It's a very simple thing actually. It's a very obvious yes. And may I ask, how did you verify that? How did you check in with yourself? Where did you go to find this answer? Yeah, is it something in your mind that you have learned, that you have gained this knowledge, that you are aware? Is it somewhere that you've written or watched some videos? How did you find that you are already aware? Yeah, you just took a moment to go in, and that's it. Yeah, and even a child can do that, and no special education is needed for that. Now, what does it mean, and you know what we should think about that, and how we should see that? Now, that's where the complexity is. Yeah, the meaning is a mental layer, and that's quite complex. When we want to understand what is awareness, when we want to know the meaning of this awareness, that's where we need to start using the mind. And that's where we need to start relying on our past knowledge and past experiences. So we need to go to the mental layer and then to figure it all out, which is very complex, of course. However, the beauty and simplicity is that this special word consciousness, it's becoming very famous in the media, on television, and in spirituality and so on. This word consciousness. How do you approach this word consciousness? First of all, yeah. If I tell you you are consciousness, how do you approach it? How does it ring a bell inside you? So it's a certain saying your consciousness. It's a certain concept, isn't it? Perhaps some of you will say, well, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know what that is. And some of you will say, well, I read a lot about it, and everywhere it says that that's who whom I'm supposed to be. As consciousness, and that's what that's where I'm supposed to be. That's what I am. But you always refer still to your understanding, to the meaning, when we speak about consciousness. If we're really honest, we don't have to pretend, that we know everything. So when we speak about consciousness, I found that with most of the people, it's really a conceptual thing, in a very simple way. But when we ask a question, are you aware? Are you conscious right now? Now that's where something deeper is happening. Because immediately you turn your focus inwardly. Am I aware? Am I conscious right now? You don't have to answer it, first of all. I'm not expecting your contemplation regarding this question. I'm not expecting your understanding, or what you understand about it. I'm only expecting you to check in and to verify that that's an obvious yes. So if all of us can check in and we have the same answer, then that's already a common ground. And then if all of us just simply answer that, yes, I am aware, I may not know what that means, and that's okay. Yeah? If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it, that's fine. But that verification that, yes, I'm aware, is actually the most important truth that you will ever come across in your life. And this truth can be cultivated. It's something experiential. It doesn't require you to believe that I am aware. It's not a belief. It's certainly not a religion, none of that. It's not a belief. It's not a philosophy either. We're not making up a new philosophy. And there's nothing to believe in, really, because everyone can experientially just verify that. So the truth must be simple, first of all. The truth must be experiential. And the truth must be the same for everyone. If we're talking about the real truth or the absolute truth, it must be the same for everyone. Because that is the essence of all of us. And that's something that we all have. Yeah, if we speak about consciousness, which is more conceptual, and now the science is kind of verifying, but more in terms of quantum physics as a quantum field, and all these universal laws and behaviors. So all of these together, the science says, well, that's consciousness. All of that together, that's consciousness. But it still is not so simply understood or verifiable in everyone's experience. Even a child can, should verify it's their own essence. So if it's not a religion and if it's not a philosophy, if you don't have to read books about it, and if it's not something that you must believe in, so it means that your mind has nothing much to do about it. And that's amazing. It's really amazing that there is something which is your essence and your mind is not needed for it. Yeah, it's well, the mind actually is the challenge, it's the obstacle. The mind is actually the veil. Yeah, because it's the mind that, what really happened is when you were born, you were this pure awareness. when you were born, and you were just simply present and aware as an infant. You were simply present and aware. And then as you were growing up, you know, you were assigned a name by external force, which is called your parents. And then they started naming you. You know, you're Marcus, you're Anne, you know, you're Lizzie, you know, Elizabeth. You know, you got this assigned subjective definition. And what is this name really? You know, when you kind of really investigate it, what is it? Well, it's nothing. First of all, it's nothing. It's just a label. And of course, since this name was assigned to you, and that's where there's this biblical story, you know, that in the Garden of Eden, you know, God was showing all this beautiful garden to Adam and Eve, and he gave them a task to name everything. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? I can't recall in the Bible, was it before or after the fall? Because that's an important aspect too. But regardless of whether it was before or after the fall, you know, naming everything, it's more kind of for a practical purpose, we may say. And this is how we invented language, isn't it? Well, what do children do instantly and what do parents do, you know? This is a dog, this is a cat, this is the apple, that's a tree, that's a sun, that's a moon. Yeah, so you name everything. And that's what the child learns, you know, to recognize or to have a certain mental reference to these objects that a child simply can see. But you know, to function in a society, you know, there is a certain education to go through, which is okay, and nothing wrong with that. But that's what happens, that a child is born as a pure awareness, just simply present, pure being, tabula rasa, we may say, and then is assigned a name, and then as a child grows up to a certain stage, they start to recognize these objects and develop language. Yeah, the ability to speak and to ask questions and get to know things. So therefore, you know, we kind of upload all the names, all the associations with all the objects into child's mind, and that's what we call a language. So then, of course, what happens is that a child starts to develop not only recognition, cognitive skills, ability to recognize objects and names, but then to make up sentences, to be able to speak and communicate. And later on, of course, we may say with the innocent ignorance, all the parents are uploading a child their own belief system. You know, that this world is like this, that be careful, don't do that, and this is okay, and that's not okay. And therefore, you know, subconsciously, all of that is uploaded, all those belief systems and views of the world and societal norms are uploaded. And in the older days, all the religious views would be imposed to those innocent souls. And right now it's a bit more flexible, you know. Have a bit more freedom in terms of religions these days, so it's a bit more relaxed. But now we have so much, you know, media propaganda and all those other things going on that, you know, willingly or not, to be able to function in a society, you know, all these belief systems are uploaded and learned in a school, in the kindergarten, by parents and by teachers, and later on by all the media and your best friend, government. So step by step, you know, everything that you should know, you get to know it. You know, everything that whoever wants you to know something, you get to know it. So hopefully at some point people have a certain critical way of thinking, you know, discernment, a certain discernment is developed to actually start recognizing, you know, is this real or not, is it true or not. So this critical thinking is a very important skill to be developed. Yeah, so it's something that you may start to reclaim your power, we may say, when you start to develop a certain critical way of thinking and not only blindly believing everything that is presented to you. Because now even with the mobile phone and social media is just, you know, it's so much information out there. So right now the most important skill for children is really not about receiving the information, but more about learning how to process it and how to develop a critical analysis, a critical thinking. So this is the most important skill for children and teenagers right now to be developed, and adults too, of course. So through these belief systems and all uploaded world views, by the age of 35, it is now scientifically proven and psychologically proven that by the age of 35, the average adult has already a very fixed, fully developed, we may say, worldview and societal programming, yeah, and a subconscious programming. So the latest science is saying that by the age of 35, a person is actually utilizing 95% of a subconscious programming, meaning that only the average human person is only 5% is actually, we may say, critically conscious or present or connected with oneself or aware of his own self. Just 5%. So it has been tested. There has been a lot of research put into it that by the age of 35, 95% is all downloaded and it's all settled. Basically, you're kind of baked as a cake out of the factory, we can say. You know, you're all uploaded, all downloaded, and then you are the average human being, you know, out there, which is obviously a very disturbing fact for the general population. So we may recognize, you know, why I'm telling all of this is because what that means is that by the age of 35, the average person is 95% veiled. 95% of their pure consciousness or this awareness is actually layered with all the mental systems, beliefs of how things are supposed to be, but not exactly how experientially things are or open in one's own awareness. And this is why, you know, in all the spiritual traditions for thousands of years, it's been said that we are in the age of veil, of Maya. In Buddhist tradition, there is a concept of Maya, which means ignorance. In a shamanic tradition, they would say that people live in the world of a dream, meaning that, you know, even when you dream, you have a certain awareness that you're dreaming, yeah, because you can see your dream, but the rest is a dream. So in the South American shamanic tradition, they have this concept of dream. In Buddhist tradition, an idea of Maya or illusion. And in Hindu tradition, you know, karma and also illusion. And well, in Christianity, it's even more disturbing. It's called sin. You know, a very rough description. And the way of presenting all of the usual Christian way is very disturbing, to be honest. It's very unsupportive in the process of awakening. So there are certain traditions that I would say, you know, the shamanic tradition or Buddhist tradition, and particularly Zen tradition, are very straightforward and kind of they kept a more reasonable path towards awakening. And now we are entering this new era, basically, where we have matured as a civilization to a certain point where all information is available to us, and we have reached a certain collective maturity at this point that we are much more intelligent as humanity comparing to 100 or 500 years ago. So therefore we now have technology and so much access to information that it's now a good time to start speaking very directly and to also use science so that we may start to understand it a lot easier, how to come back to your own essence and to be free, and how to start to decondition that 95% of veiling, or what we simply call conditioning, mental conditioning. Yeah. So mental conditioning, it always requires a certain belief, first of all. It's always not really certain. And that's why people have so many doubts and confusions and worries. So it's always not really reliable, not so certain, and it's subject to doubt. Mental conditioning is also quite, we may say, conceptual. Yeah, it's conceptual. Certain things are okay for the sake of practicality, for example, using language, using numbering system, so that we can function as a civilization, so that we can function, you know, in society. But practical things are for practical reasons, isn't it? They are actually meant to be as tools. They're not meant to be as our experience of life. Yeah, there's a big difference. Because you see, the average human person is 95%, we can say, disconnected from life, or 95% not experiencing the fullness of life. Yeah, so now putting it way around, it means that, 95% we can experience more life. So that's amazing. Yeah, and there's 95% more opportunity for all of you to experience more, to live more fully, and to be more connected and free. There's a famous Buddha quote when one student asked Buddha, "What did you gain from meditation?" And Buddha said, well, I lost anger, I lost confusion, I lost doubt, I lost worry, and I lost fear. Yeah, that's the most important thing that I gained from meditation. Yeah, so I know that every one of you, every human being experiences these unwanted things. Yeah, and these things are actually not the things that we want to experience, isn't it, first of all? Like, who enjoys anger or sadness or worry or confusion or doubt or fear? No, nobody enjoys that. But everybody is experiencing that. And there must be a way out. Yeah, there must be a way to live without that. And therefore we need to ask the right questions and start looking of how to do that, how to overcome the worry, the doubt, the confusion, the fear and anxiety. Yeah, so therefore I see that in my eyes that most of the people have too many things that they don't want, and that's a very paradoxical manifestation of the law of abundance. that actually, you know, we are always, all of us, abundant. But the question is, with what? Some people are very abundant with fear. Some people are very abundant with anger. Some people are very abundant with understandings and concepts. Some people are very abundant with what they know. Some people are very abundant with peace. And others might be very abundant with the love. Yeah, so the universal law of abundance is present and active in every single being. It's just the question is what one is choosing in every single moment, and what one is resonating in every single moment, and what one is, let me say, mastering in every single moment with their own choices and their own investigations and with their own skills and abilities. So if this simple explanation would be taught in a primary school, I'm sure that our civilization would have been by now so much more advanced and beautiful, isn't it? So we may see that education is very important starting point. So therefore, the obstacle, yes, is the mind generally, and that is the 95% problem of all problems. Now, the good news is that 5% you do have access, and I know many of you already have more access to your own awareness. Yeah, and that's a vital information, because it means that it's not a total dream. You know, it's not a total ignorance. So it's not so bad, you know, generally. So 5% there is in everyone. And you may see that at some times, you know, your partner is a very nice person. You know, and they do have all this love and all this happiness and all that connectivity and so on. But of course, life takes over, and, you know, difficult things happen, and, you know, all that stuff takes over. But however, that 5% is there, and if we look at the whole history of humanity, we could see that at certain stages in the history of humanity, there are these enlightened times like the Greek times, they were very enlightening. You know, all these Greek philosophers were present and bringing this abundant knowledge and truth and all these new ideas to the civilization. Egyptian civilization was very advanced, and of course the Renaissance, you know, was a rebirth after the Dark Ages. And right now it's a time of awakening. Right now it's actually the time of awakening of this light, it's a renaissance of information and choices that we may make as a civilization. Because 100 years ago you had to go to this big building called library and ask a librarian if they know where there is a book that you may want to find, and then read the whole thing until you find what you're looking for. And now just hello Siri or Google, you know, I don't know what the name, Alexa or so, just answer me, yeah, just push a button and you get it. So you see what's the difference in just 100 years. So we are now entering this new era of new awakening and new light. And there has never been such an access to the spiritual content, you know, to the books of spirituality, to so many videos on the internet. You know, just 20 years ago you had to buy a tape or a CD, well, that was maybe 15 or 10 years ago, you know, to be able to see a video of a more, you know, interesting content. And because it was not on the television, obviously. And now on YouTube, you can just immediately access, you know, just type in Enlightenment teacher or guru this or guru that, you know, and here you are, you know, they're right in front of you. And it's all available. And so it's never been like this ever before, really. You know, so and it's never been easier to meet in physical too. Well, except for this and last year. But you know, hopefully things will change soon. But generally, travel is easy, and then it's cheap, and it's available. So it's never been easier to meet, you know, in physical and to access all of this. So we are living in truly exciting times, and to recap, tonight's introduction is that you know, we started with this beautiful, important document first of all. Yeah. So interestingly, that 95% of veiling is in these three letters U, in that very defined, you know, black ink as you or me or I. But the other 95% opportunity is in this white canvas. Yeah, and that's the beauty of the simplicity of this document. And then we got to understand that where the problem lies, it's in the mind, in all these things that we have received mentally and took in and then started to identify with. Yeah, and that's what started to veil every human being. Yeah, and this veiling is actually very mechanical in nature. This is why you may see depictions of a labyrinth, yeah, or a mechanical clock. these are conditionings, and conditionings mean that there are bondages. Yeah, like locks and bonds, and it's quite mechanical. The subconscious conditioning is quite mechanical in nature. It requires a certain insight. Carl Jung, was the best-known psychiatrist to investigate the subconscious mind, but he didn't go into the superconscious, because there he said, well, that's where spirituality starts. and that's where things are a lot more to explain. So he focused to really, his profession into the subconsciousness. And he's the father of the modern psychology, and psychology became the biggest thing in the West, but it has its own limitations, because it only looks at subconsciousness. However, who you really are is not the subconsciousness, it's the superconsciousness, or the pure awareness itself. Yeah, so 95% everyone has opportunity to experience more, to be more connected, and to access so many beautiful things that are accessible once you exchange them and release your fears and release your anxieties and doubts and worries. It's a good exchange, isn't it? Yeah, so we obviously recognize that we have so many things that we don't want and we don't like. Yeah, so that's the law of abundance. And therefore we need to learn how to let it go, how to give it up, let it go, how to decondition it, and how to become lighter and more free. Because actually these mental layers and conditions, they're a bit heavy. They have a psychological heaviness. And what is a depression? It's a deep pressure, a deep psychological pressure. So that's a depression. Yeah, a deep psychological pressure. So it means that things are becoming so locked up that a person doesn't know what to do, and they feel totally in a dark corner, and that's a terminology used in psychology. And what does a psychiatrist usually do? Well, I will write you this pill, and that should help you out. Is that really a solution, to further suppress the emotional state that somehow it's just going to pass away in a month or in a week or two, a month or a year, and you can continue living in that low, suppressed state. So again, the Western psychology reached a certain limitation. But nowadays I'm meeting many psychologists who are also awakening, and then they are also can't avoid the latest science and all that information coming up. So they're starting to find new ways as well. So pills will not solve things. Rest assured, that's not a solution. They may help in a certain extreme circumstance, maybe when things are totally out of control, just to calm down a bit, but that's just to calm down, but you still need to find a solution, isn't it? Yeah, and that's where we come to what I usually call is consciousness work, energy work and consciousness work. So we don't use so much word spirituality in what we do, because spirituality already means something for you, isn't it? It means maybe a picture of Buddha, or it means whatever it means for you. It's your own meaning. However, we're not looking at meanings. We're looking at how do we come back to our own awareness, and how do we decondition And how do we open up these amazing things inside us? So we call that generally consciousness work or energy work, and they both go hand in hand to help us to open up and become more lighter and free. Yeah. So any questions so far in this introduction?
Yes. That means that the depression, it makes my pictures of the world that I have in me makes myself this pressure. This makes me suffering.
Yes, indeed.
It means if I understand that these pictures, what I have in my mind, is not the world surrounding me.
Because the world surrounding you is beautiful.
I know. Because in German, depression means also something in the landscape, what is going very deep.
Yes, yes.
It means that you have to, when you go into depression, then you have to sink down, you have to go deeper and find your purpose yourself. Yeah, so for me the explanation, I always take also the intellectual stuff for me to understand.
Yes, yes, yes.
Depression, okay.
Yes. Now, what is the lightest thing there ever is? What is the lightest thing that there ever is?
Du not von dem, how do you say that? Wie man das übersetzen? Keine Vorannahme, keine Vorstellung zu haben.
You say no?
And don't have any prejudice or any idea and make up your mind.
Yes, yes. So you
don't make any
yes.
ideas or don't form any things in front.
So when you see a child, yes, when you see a child, they have these sparkling, wondrous eyes, like, yeah, they look around, it's like all of it is new. Yeah, they're so wondrous. Yeah, because it is. It actually is. Yeah, so they're always light. Children are always light. They're always spontaneous. And something bad happens, well, they cry, but then 2 moments later they laugh. Yeah, they let go easily, isn't it? They let go easily. They don't hold long anything up to a certain age. So when we look at it, that's the way they are, and it's totally natural, isn't it? They can release their emotions so quickly. Yeah, bad things happen, fine. They cry, they let it go, they're happy again. Yeah, they're playful, they're spontaneous, they don't hold anything, they release everything quickly and easily and effortlessly. Yeah, so that's already a good template for us, a good blueprint. And that's why in Zen tradition there is a saying that we have to learn and then we have to unlearn to be free. Yeah, because we have to learn to function in a society as adult beings, and that's fine. We've done that already, all of us. And now we have to unlearn to become free and lighter, and to return back to this wondrous now. Because it is a wondrous now, because every moment is absolutely unique. Every moment is absolutely unique and special manifestation of the present life manifestation in itself. It's actually a living presence of consciousness. It's a living presence of God. It's a living presence of universe every single moment. Because every single moment you are seeing all the colors here. Now, how many colors are here? Don't try to count them, too many. Yeah, all these colors. Yeah, they're all literally bombarding your eyes. Yeah, and all these sounds. Yeah, they're reaching your ears. Yes, hello, welcome. Yeah, something special is happening. Okay. Hello, hello. No worries, you made it. Come, have a seat. Maybe you can sit here, yes? These two seats. Welcome. Okay, so we will recognize that every single moment is unique, and it's new, and it's actually special. Even if we are in the same room, every moment we see these colors around us, and that's alive. Every color touching your eyes is alive, because your eyes are receiving these colors, and these colors are then being translated in your brain to have a certain understanding that this is red, this is yellow, this is white. And every moment your ears are receiving all the sounds, and then these sounds have certain meaning in your brain. It's processed in a certain way. This is music, and this is chaos, this is noise, and then this is something interesting, and so on. And every breath is new, isn't it? When you cannot breathe in the same breath twice. You cannot breathe in the same air twice. So every breath is new. And your body has every time these sensations, maybe heat or cold, and then certain atmospheric pressure, or and then certain, even if you feel any pain in your body, it's also a new thing. If you do not define pain as pain, it's actually a very interesting thing to experience. Yeah, when you feel any pain in the body, it's like it's a certain pressure in a certain area, and if you do not define it as anything, it's a really interesting thing, actually. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, of course, but it's very interesting. Yeah, because you feel pressure and certain vibrations. There is a certain maybe intensity or a certain substance or a certain way that any pain feels. And pain is only a certain disbalance. It's a certain disbalance. Yeah, from something which is not natural, we may say. Or it's a certain maybe adaptation. If your environmental conditions have changed, you may feel a certain discomfort, and sometimes it requires a certain adaptation. Yeah, so there are different kinds of pains, so to speak, but 99% of all the pains that you would ever experience are actually energetic. Because only 1% of the pain is actually, we may say, really physical, is when you actually maybe cut yourself, for example, and there is a wound. So that obviously will take some time, because all these millions of cells have a very busy job to do. yeah, to get them back together. Yeah, if you cut your finger, there's actually like a very interesting process happening that your body is automatically repairing itself. If you ask a scientist what's going on in that moment, oh, it's amazing. They could make a whole movie about it. You know, of what happens when your body is healing. So your body is a truly wondrous organism. And I love the saying that your body is the most complex quantum mechanical bioorganism that there is. Your body has 50 trillion cells, and they're very busy at keeping you feel good. Yeah, so when somebody asks you, how do you feel? And you say, I'm good. There is some big wondrous things going on right there in your normal good. And whenever and only when you feel a certain pain or discomfort, then there is something disbalanced, and only then you become aware that, oh, I do have a body, and actually there are my legs here, and this leg is hurting for some reason. But otherwise, you wouldn't even notice that you have a leg. So what do you really notice usually, may I ask? Yeah, many people are kind of just keep processing their past. Yeah, in their normal way. So every moment is really alive. First of all, it's really unique, and we call that the now. And if you would ever feel or think that you are separate, you know, this big idea that you are separate from God or separate from universe, I'll repeat that you're separate from universe. Yeah. Is that really possible for you to be separate from the universe? Yeah, is it really possible for you to be separate from this earth, since you are literally in it? Yeah, since you are actually breathing the atmosphere, since you are actually subject to the gravity, to the oxygen, to the air that you breathe, to the water that you drink, to the food that you eat, to all the 1 million other things, you know, the sun heat and the humidity and so on. So this idea that you are separate is the illusion. Yeah, and therefore we need to start really looking at things in a real way, you know, and then start letting go of these belief systems, and start letting go of all the things that made one more closed within, because actually we are not separate, and it's a scientific fact. You know, it's impossible. And my previous question to everyone, are you aware? You may ask yourself, am I aware? Susan and Gian, you say, or? John Paul, yes. Yeah, so you may ask yourself a question, am I aware? Am I conscious? And it's an obvious yes. It's an obvious yes. Yeah, so this obvious yes is it's what we discussed already, that it's your essence. Yeah, it's your real nature, because when you were a child, you were simply aware and present and free, really. And only then you learned how to be adult, so to speak, and how to become more heavy and more difficult. So when we recognize the actual verification of truth, that I am aware And the actual undeniable fact that, you know, you are in this universe, you are on this earth, you're breathing, and every moment is actually new, unless you start thinking that it's all old, you know, but it's actually new, and that's the good news. That actually everything is vibrant and alive and beautiful and unique. And you know, even you know, a trash on a sidewalk is also alive and new and fresh in its own way. You know, the same way that these beautiful mountains are new and alive and fresh. All is alive and new and fresh, really. Of course, we have our preferences, but if we really stick to the fact, it's all alive and fresh and new in every single moment. And that's the truth of manifestation. And just to further elaborate on it is that currently we're primarily focused on the physical manifestation. Yeah, we're primarily focused on objective seeing. Yeah, this is Mindo, you can see me here, and this is, you know, all other people here, and these walls and the room. So primarily people are objectively, physically focused. But as you start to change your focus to, for example, the space in this room, interesting things start to happen. As you start changing your focus to the vibrations of the sound reaching your ears, interesting things you start to become more present, isn't it? You start to become more present. And the invitation is to return and to become fully present and fully alive, fully fresh, fully aware, fully free, and to let go of all the things which are heavy, you know, and mental things and emotional things and psychological things. These things are heavy, and they're old, by the way. They're old, you know, and nobody wants them anymore. Yeah, these heavy mental, psychological, emotional things. So naturally, as human beings, we prefer to be happy, isn't it? We prefer to be alive and fresh. And this is why we love traveling. This is why we love shopping. This is why we love, you know, watching all the new things. Because the brain loves it. The brain loves what is new and alive and fresh. Yeah, so so we naturally are designed to be present. Because every single human being prefers happiness than suffering. Yeah, so therefore, as a humanity, we are designed to be present and alive and happy. It's just that certain things went wrong in the history, and certain things are still wrong in the way that your beloved government is treating you, and so on. So therefore we need to start to recognize our essential nature, and to start to recognize what do we really prefer. And we don't need any special concepts such as enlightenment or you know, any other spiritual concepts. We don't need them really, because they might be conceptual and they might just have certain meanings inside you. But we should definitely bring our focus to become more happy, more present, more alive, even more healthy actually, and more self-responsible, more less reliant on influences from the outside that may give you trouble, yeah, because they do, and to start claiming your happiness, and freedom, and to let go of the baggage, because you want to feel happy, and it's never too late, really. Whether you're 20 or 40 or 70, it doesn't matter really, because you can still come back to your own present and pure self and let go of anything that is holding you back. Yeah, so that's the very brief summary of the essence of you. And the mind is not really necessary in this process. What is necessary, how will you know that you're making a progress, is if you're becoming happier, if you're becoming lighter, if you're starting to feel more free, and if things make more and more sense to you in a real substantial way, then you know that you're making a progress of what we call coming back to your full consciousness. Yeah, so the full consciousness is this real present aliveness and limitlessness, letting go of or overcoming any limitations within. And it feels amazing. I'll tell you, it feels amazing. And Lyonne will tell you it feels amazing, and so many other people in our community organization, they will tell you that it definitely feels amazing, and you would never ever want to go back to the previous way of living. Because it makes no sense, to go back in the previous way of living and to cause yourself more issues and troubles and pain. So we have to keep things very simple, first of all, yeah, very simple. We have to constantly verify what is the truth must be verifiable. It's not a belief, it's not a religion, it's not an ideology. It's your own awareness, which is the truth. And then and the complicated part is, how do we heal? How do we let go? And how do we become lighter? Yeah, so that's the complicated part, and in this retreat we will work on it. And your own verification of your own increased happiness will be the proof of it.